After 20 years in a bloody war, we see old enemies now on the way to becoming new partners.
Is it time to normalize Vietnam? No!
If you want to start an argument, even today, mention Vietnam. Anything about Vietnam. Just yesterday, the hint of normalizing relations with Vietnam brought protesters to the White House. Most of these people are Vietnamese Americans, still angry with the communist government that controls their homeland and eager to keep up the isolation of the country.
Hanoi communist liar!
But modern-day Vietnam and the United States have actually been on track to get together since the late 80s. In 1988, the Vietnamese government finally started to help answer some of our questions about POWs and MIAs. That cooperation has resulted in full-scale searches that are going on right now all across Vietnam, with U.S. teams looking for any evidence of remains of lost Americans.
We basically, if we think it's bone, we give it to the anthropologist, and the anthropologist makes that call. So.
In all, there are more than 1,600 American servicemen officially listed as missing in Vietnam. But today, the Pentagon reported there are just 55 truly unresolved cases. And because of that cooperation, President Clinton plans to go ahead with the help of former POW and now Republican U.S. Senator John McCain.
I believe that the American people want to get this issue behind us and the emotionalism that surrounds it and try to heal the wounds. I feel that's a step in that direction.
Tomorrow, McCain is expected to be at the White House, backing a president he often opposes. Others, however, will not be so supportive.
The historical records show that Vietnam cooperates on POW-MI issues only when pressured by the United States. And in the absence of sustained pressure, there is little progress on POW-MIA concerns or any other issue.
Stand back and expect the debate to begin again. Among those lining up with the president on this issue include several other Vietnam War veterans in Congress. Among the influential groups who oppose normalizing relations, the American Legion. And you can expect to hear from the Legion and others tomorrow when the announcement's made.
I'm sure they'll have a lot to say about that. A lot of people, I think, Gary, are unaware that these searches are still going on in Vietnam. Many times they are not reported on. We don't see a lot of pictures or hear a lot of news about them until something like this makes headlines. But I suppose that these searches have been going on ever since this issue has been raised?
Since '88, it's really been serious. There's been serious searches occurring. And right now, there are Army groups, United States Army personnel, who are going throughout Vietnam conducting these searches. And in hearing from those people, they say they can go where they want to go, that they are not being restricted by the Vietnamese government. And those searches are going to continue beyond tomorrow. In other words, the normalizing of relations will actually, according to the Pentagon, only step up the search process.
All right. But again, we'll have more on this issue tomorrow when we hear from the other side.
All right.
All right. Well, at 9:30 tonight, don't miss a special report, Children of Gold. Randy Page brings us the untold story of Amerasian children sold as pawns in a complex immigration game. The kids end up abandoned and alone in America, their father's country.
And while relations with Vietnam may be warming up, relations between the U.S. and China are getting pretty frosty tonight. And the man in the middle is a Californian, human rights activist Harry Wu. Political reporter Dave Bryan explains.
Tonight, Chinese-American human rights activist Raymond Wu is disappointed. He wants the Clinton administration to get tough with China over the arrest of fellow activist Harry Wu, no relation, who sits in a Chinese prison tonight charged with spying and could be facing the death penalty.
The U.S. government should take a stronger position and say that it's our responsibility to protect our citizens. Whether they come from China or from any other country, they are U.S. citizens and should be treated fairly and equally.
Harry Wu has testified before Congress and produced TV documentaries about forced labor in Chinese prisons and the harvesting and sale of organs from prisoners who are executed. Born in China, now a U.S. citizen and resident of Northern California, he spent 19 years in a Chinese labor camp and now is a thorn in China's side. But not a spy, according to the State Department.
I can tell you there's nothing that I know of that would indicate he's a spy for anyone. Certainly not for the United States.
His wife has been waiting and worrying back home in Milpitas since Wu was detained when trying to cross into China on June 19th.
China is so irrational, and so that's why I'm so worried about him.
U.S.-Chinese relations were already rocky even before Wu's arrest. The Chinese were furious over the historic visit to the United States last month by the president of Taiwan. In fact, some experts believe Wu's arrest may have been, at least in part, in retaliation for that.
Harry Wu has long been an embarrassment to them. They could have done this at any time. This is now seen as something related to the Li Donghui case, in the sense that it's China, one of China's responses, as they said they would make to it.
So far, the Clinton administration has done little other than to express regrets and demand a diplomatic visit with Wu. But activists say that won't impress the Chinese. In Monterey Park, I'm Dave Bryan, Channel 9 News.
Back. 9:30 tonight, here's a look at our top stories. A flight attendant was nearly sucked out of an American Eagle commuter plane shortly after takeoff from Chicago's O'Hare Airport. The cabin door of the ATR turboprop fell off the plane. Investigators don't know why. A package bomb addressed to a long-distance phone company worker blew up and injured 2 North Carolina women. But investigators don't think there's a connection with the Unabomber case. And in the former Yugoslavia, Serbs have taken over what was a demilitarized zone. Serbian forces now control Srebrenica, and they've ordered the 42,000 mostly Muslim residents to get out. America stands poised to resume full diplomatic relations with Vietnam, and both countries are trying to put the war behind them.
But the Vietnam War has a living legacy, the children of gold.
These are children born to U.S. fathers and Vietnamese mothers. So what's become of them?
Well, Randy Page joins us now with this untold story of betrayal and deception, the story of children of gold. Randy.
Pat, they aren't children anymore. Most are in their early 20s. In Vietnam, their faces betrayed them. They were considered a product of the enemy. But soon, they became a product that could be bought and sold. It all happened when children of dust became children of gold.
My name is Tan. We came to the United States from Vietnam. We all have much difficulty in our lives, yet we want to learn English and adjust ourselves to life in America.
When he was a little boy, Tan Tron's mother would bring him to a beach in Vietnam and take him down to the water's edge to show him the seagulls. On this beach in Orange County, he says those happy childhood memories come flooding back, but the painful ones are just beneath the surface.
And I remember, many helicopters and plane coming, boom, 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 boom. I remember that.
Tan Tron is a child of war. His father was an American soldier, his mother Vietnamese. For more than a decade after the war, Tan and more than 30,000 other Amerasians were forced to live as outcasts in their mother's country. They were called dust of life. Tan was teased, beaten, and even stabbed when he tried to go to school. His mother stood by him, but she could not protect him.
They attack me like that every time. They want to catch me, they want to kill me every time.
They wanted to cut you, they wanted to kill you?
Yeah.
Tan dreamed he would someday meet his dad in the United States, but his mother couldn't even tell him his father's name.
I asked her, where's my father, Mom? She said, maybe he died already, and she forgot that she don't want to make me sad.
12 years after the end of the war, Tan thought his dream just might come true. The United States had just passed a law, the Amerasian Homecoming Act, which made it possible for Amerasians to move to the United States and to bring their Vietnamese families with them. But like most Amerasians, Tan and his mother were too poor to make the trip.
She wants to come American too, but we don't have money. We don't have enough money, make for the paperwork.
After the Amerasian Homecoming Act was passed, these children of dust soon became known as children of gold, because now they could be used as a ticket by wealthy Vietnamese families who wanted to come to the United States. Here's how it would often work. The wealthy family would buy the Amerasian for a few ounces of gold and offered to cover all traveling expenses and to take care of the child once they arrived here in the United States. In exchange, the Amerasian would tell U.S. officials that this rich family was his real family, that he wanted them to come with him to the United States. But all too often, once they set foot on American soil, the Amerasians were abandoned in train stations and bus depots and airports across the country. Once again, they found themselves abandoned and alone, but this time in a country they did not understand.
So many families came in fraudulently.
Joseph Love is a mentor who works with Amerasians in Orange County.
The families, they drop the kid off, they drop him off on the freeway, they just drop him off. Or they move and don't say when they're moving. Maybe he goes to school, maybe he goes to work, maybe he goes over to his friend's house, and when he comes home, the house is empty. He's gone, he's just thrown away.
In 1992, Ton sold himself to a rich Vietnamese family for $1,000. He was forced to leave his mother behind in Vietnam.
She cried, you know, she cried, me cry too. And I say, Mom, don't worry. I know how to do that. I know you love me. I love you too, Mom. And then if you want my future better in country, okay, let me go. I don't forget you. I keep you in my mind.
Ton says the wealthy family was kind to him in Vietnam. But the moment their plane touched down at John Wayne Airport and they didn't need him anymore, they began to talk about how they would get rid of him. Within weeks, he was abandoned, and for the first time, he realized he would never be able to find his American father.
The first day I come here, I see that my heaven. But after that, I see not heaven, hell. Hell.
Ton has difficulty communicating in English, but his eloquence comes through when he writes in Vietnamese.
Đã nhiều đêm chúng tôi muốn khóc.
Around us, we have seen dark shadows, and we want to find a way out, but we couldn't. Many times we nearly cry. Almost many nights we could not sleep because we were hungry.
Everything you own is in this room?
Yeah.
Ton has learned to survive by working long hours at menial jobs so he can afford to rent this small room. Hanging on the wall, a picture of Vietnam, the beach where his mother used to take him as a child. Ton is in love with another child of gold, Tran Hung, and their son is 8 months old.
I don't have father now. And when I have a son, I tell my son, you are have father. I am your father. I'm protect you. I'm your father.
So he brings his baby boy to the beach to build happy memories like the ones he remembers as a child.
Có nhiều đêm, cố gắng nhiều lần.
We hope that we can get help from the others in order that we can survive in the United States and that we can enjoy a new life in the land of freedom.
An estimated 4,300 Amerasians living in Southern California. It's estimated somewhere between 20 and as many as 50% of them are children of gold. If you would like to help Amerasians in our community, St. Anselm's Cross-Cultural Community Center would love to hear from you. They desperately need jobs and financial assistance since federal funds are no longer available. Here's the number to call, 714-537-0608. The people at St. Anselm's can tell you just what you can do to help. A footnote to the story. It's interesting that once the State Department got wind of the fact that these fake families were coming in, their response was to require so much in the way of documentation that now Amerasians are stranded in Vietnam. Now Amerasians who want to come to the United States legitimately can't get here because they don't have the birth certificates and the documents that the U.S. State Department now is requiring. So as a result of this, law which was meant to help Amerasian children, we see many stranded in Vietnam who can't come here and abandoned here in the United States. It just has not worked.
Shameful. That was a most powerful story that we just saw, Randy. Thank you for that. Is there anything they can do? I haven't heard anything about any of these families being prosecuted, if they can be prosecuted. It just seems like they saw this on a bill of good and brought these children over here and then dropped them off, and that's it. That's abandonment, isn't it? Isn't that against the law, our law?
Well, see, the problem is all tied up in the legalities of the Amerasian child who lied to begin with. And if he lied before, then who's telling the truth? It's such a legal problem that I think the U.S. at this point is just not willing to tackle it.
But we're glad for Tommy Tang. Looks like he's doing okay. He's got his family.
He's doing well.
We have another report, don't we?
Yeah.
All right. We'll see that tomorrow. Thanks a lot.
Have you noticed that TV ads aren't what they once were?
Approval.
Today, I am announcing...
After 2 decades on bitter terms, President Clinton decided it's time to go on speaking terms.
This moment offers us the opportunity to bind up our own wounds. They have resisted time for too long.
Clinton's announcement comes among concern from veterans that normalizing relations is too much too soon. 58,000 U.S. servicemen were killed in the Vietnam War, and more than 2,200 Americans are still listed as missing in action. The POW-MIA organization, the American Legion, and many key Republican leaders disagree with the decision.
Well, it's impossible for me to figure that Vietnam can be honest about anything. I lived with them too long. They never told the truth once.
But the president says Hanoi has made significant progress in resolving MIA cases and that economic benefits will help both sides. U.S. investment in Vietnam in the last year and a half has reached $520 million.
The majority of the American people would like to heal the wounds of this war and move forward and look forward to a brighter future rather than a somewhat bleak past.
The U.S. will now negotiate trade and investment treaties with the Vietnamese. The State Department will establish an embassy in Hanoi, and a presidential delegation of vets and MIA families will visit Vietnam before the end of the year. Carrie.
Pat, the move to improve relations with Vietnam could bring a big boost to the Southern California economy. But critics here say, despite the possible gains, the price the president paid was too high. Cindy Benson has that story.
Little Saigon, more than 150,000 Vietnamese Americans call this Orange County community home. Many here believe extending trade with Vietnam will benefit businesses here and across Southern California.
California had a lot of things to export to Vietnam, computer, technology, services, and agriculture, everything to Vietnam. And Vietnam is poor and a growing country.
Dr. Co Pham runs the Vietnamese Chamber of Commerce. He knows of American companies poised to do business with Vietnam and hopes Vietnamese people here can help.
On behalf of the American company or United States, they can make it better for all the Vietnamese here in California as well as in Vietnam.
But not everyone is embracing the move to improve ties with Vietnam, even if it is good for our economy. The president's decision prompted discussion at many VFW posts today, including this one at Hermosa Beach. Opinions are mixed and emotions run high.
There comes a time to move forward.
While some vets support the president, others say economics became more important than missing American soldiers.
We have a lot of unanswered questions, and I'd like some answers before we, open up the economic floodgates.
And that sentiment could stand in the way of most favored nation status for Vietnam, which would give that country open access to trade in the U.S. Some are saying Vietnam needs to give more before it should gain. Cindy Benson, Channel 9 News.
Trade analysts say Vietnam offers a particularly attractive market for American businesses because of the connections that already exist between the two countries. But there's still work to do there. By some estimates, Vietnam will spend $7 billion over the next 7 years on new roads, ports, and telecommunication systems. And at 9:30 tonight, don't miss part 2 of Randy Page's special report on Vietnam's Amerasian Children of Gold. Tonight, we'll meet a man helping to reunite the children with their American servicemen fathers.
She's confessed to
the country. But when I live in the United States, somebody say, you are Vietnamese.
Coming up, a moving look at the Children of Gold. Rejected by one nation, abandoned in another. It's next. 9:30 tonight, here are our top stories. We're learning more about the downing of American pilot Scott O'Grady. New information suggests American radar detected the missile launcher that blew O'Grady out of the Bosnian sky. But a radio warning to the pilot was so garbled he couldn't understand it. The former safe haven of Srebrenica is safe no more. UN peacekeepers lost a battle with advancing Serbian troops. Says the move will help to determine the fate of more than 2,000 U.S. servicemen still listed as missing in action.
For the Amerasian children of gold, a sense of belonging is tough to come by.
Born to Vietnamese mothers and American servicemen fathers, they're often outcasts in both countries.
Well, tonight in part 2 of his series, our Randy Page introduces us to one of the children, now grown, and a man who's helping him on a difficult quest.
It's a moving story, believe me. With the passage of the Amerasian Homecoming Act in 1987, children fathered by American soldiers in Vietnam were allowed to come with their families to the United States. That's when they became known as children of gold. Many were sold to rich families for a few ounces of gold, then used as a ticket to get to the United States. For Amerasian boys, dreams of finding their American fathers and a better life in the United States are all too often never realized.
Dan, today I write to you a letter when I receive your letter.
Every month a letter comes. Every month Ton Tron writes back. He doesn't want to ever lose touch with his mother again. He spent too many years searching for her. Ton was only 6 years old when a bomb exploded in his small Vietnamese village. He ran in one direction, his mother ran in another. He lost her in the confusion, and Ton Tron became an orphan of the war.
I didn't have home, I didn't have anything. And in the day, I go around, I hang around and get some food from anybody who have food for me.
Ton spent the next 12 years wandering the Vietnamese countryside looking for his mother. He saw other Amerasians murdered by Vietnamese soldiers. He hid in the mountains and killed animals for food. He returned to the cities and searched for his mother. One day in 1988, Ton's neighbor recognized his mother in the picture he'd been carrying all those years. And what's more, the neighbor recognized that the boy in the picture, Ton's brother, was living right next door.
I'm really happy. I thought before I didn't have anything, but now I have mom.
But Ton's mother couldn't stand to watch her son be persecuted just because his father is American.
Anybody in Vietnam, they don't like me because they say you are Amerasian and that, and they look at my skin, my nose, my eyes, and my hair. They say different kind.
So your mom said you need to go to America and find your father?
Yeah.
After the United States passed the Amerasian Homecoming Act, which allowed these children of U.S. soldiers to come to the United States, Ton decided to make the trip alone. In 1992, he arrived in Little Saigon in Orange County and began to search for his father. And Ton doesn't even know his dad's name.
I don't know first name or last name, but his friend name Sam.
They're like something that's been damaged, and the father's the only one that can heal that damage. Were you in the military police in Saigon, sir?
Joseph Love helps Amerasians find their American fathers here at St. Anselm's Cross-Cultural Community Center in Orange County.
There's a big hole here, you see. These kids don't want to move in. They don't want to move next door. Hey, a Christmas card, that'd be great. Exchange some pictures. Telephone once in a while, that'd be more than enough. They don't want to hear, I love you. They don't want to hear, they don't need that. What they need is call me Dad.
Ton is hoping Joseph Love can help him find his father, but without a name, there is little hope. It is a desperate search, not just for a father, but also for a chance to belong.
I say, who am I? When I live in Vietnam, they say, you are American, come back to your country. But when I live in the United States, somebody say, you are Vietnamese. I ask me, you am I? Who am I? That's why I'm looking for my father. If I have my dad, I say, is my hair. My dad American people. I'm American people too. Dan, I really miss you. You have a job? You have a house, a car?
Like most Amerasians, Ton has difficulty communicating in English. He has a limited education and no job skills. He manages to pay rent for this small room by working long hours for low pay.
They're making maybe about $800 a month and working 60, 70 hours a week, possibly 7 days a week.
Peter Daniels is a job counselor at St. Anselm's. This was the largest of 55 cluster sites funded by the federal government to help Amerasians adjust to their new country. The federal money ran out last year.
Quite a few Amerasians have accepted jobs in Little Saigon, in the various restaurants and coffee shops, things like that, grocery stores, where they can fill in to a capacity that's not unlike what they may have been doing in Vietnam.
Despite the hardships, Ton says he is happy here.
I can get a job in here. It's too hard, but I can get it. Not too much money, but enough for me to live.
Still, he is torn, drawn to the father he will probably never find, and longing to be with the mother he left behind. He sees her in his dreams.
I miss her every night. When I dream, I saw her in my dream. I want to go to bed. I stop here. Miss you very much. Thank you, Dad. Good night.
Ton Tron is one of an estimated 4,300 Amerasians who've made Orange County home. Many of the young men are in his predicament, working menial jobs, speaking little English, while desperately searching for their American heritage. If you would like to help Amerasians in our community, St. Anselm's Cross-Cultural Community Center is the place to call. Here's the number, 714-537-0608. They can use jobs as well as financial help because federal funds are no longer available to Amerasians to help them learn English and job skills. These orphans of war are now on their own. Pat.
Again, very moving piece, Randy. Tomorrow, Amerasian women.
What has happened to them?
All right. Look forward to it. Thank you.
Well, it's a new take on a very sticky situation.
Coming up, the battle of Claude versus strangers in a strange land. Young Amerasian women who came to the U.S. from Vietnam to find a better life.
But many have spiraled into poverty and loneliness. Some now dream of returning to their mother's homeland, while others in Vietnam still dream of coming here to the United States.
Our Randy Page is here with more on these children of gold.
Pat, when they were born, they were known as dust of life because their fathers were American soldiers. But when the United States passed a law in 1987 to allow Amerasian children and their Vietnamese families to come to the United States, they became known as children of gold. They were often purchased for a few ounces of gold by wealthy families who wanted to come with them to the United States. Today, many Amerasian women in America find themselves isolated and confused, while others in Vietnam still dream of a better life in their father's country. This is Vietnam today. A poor country reaching out to its former enemy, the United States. A country trying to erase all evidence of the war. But these faces cannot be erased. They are the human legacy of a war the world is trying to forget. When they were born, they were known as children of dust. Many were abandoned, beaten, sold as slaves, denied an education, persecuted simply because their fathers were American soldiers. Now, 20 years after the fall of Saigon, these Amerasians hope to find a heritage in their father's homeland. They hope to follow the footsteps of many other Amerasians who've already made the trip to America.
Life was difficult for me in Vietnam. I had no education at all, and I had to raise animals like ducks and chickens and sell them at the market.
Beihai Tran arrived in Orange County 3 years ago. Today, she shares one small room in a run-down Westminster home with her husband and 2 young children, and another baby is on the way. Is your husband working?
He worked before, but he has no job now.
Beihai Tran doesn't speak English. She's never been to school. She has no job skills. Her new life in America is spent inside this room.
Waking up in the morning, taking care of my baby, watching TV, and preparing lunch and dinner.
And she sits on the floor to prepare dinner because her $350 a month in rent does not entitle her to privileges in the rest of the house. What will be your future here?
I don't know what my future will be. I hope my children will have a better life than mine.
I think life definitely was better in Vietnam for them.
Peter Daniels has helped hundreds of Amerasians find jobs, go to school, and search for their fathers here at St. Anselm's Cross-Cultural Community Center in Orange County. This was the largest of 55 cluster sites set up by the federal government to help Amerasians adjust to life in their father's country. Peter says the story of Beihai Tran is not the exception.
It's the rule.
So the majority of Amerasian women you see are locked in this circle of poverty.
Right.
Living in one room, caring for their children.
Exactly. Knowing very little about the outside world that they now are part of.
I cannot go to school. I cannot go to work because I have my 2 children.
Kai Nguyen desperately wants to break free from her isolation, but she has 2 small children to care for in this empty apartment she shares with another single Amerasian mother with 2 children.
I speak on behalf of all Amerasians. We want to have a chance to go to school, to learn English, and to learn some job skills so we can go to work. But with the system right now, we can't afford a babysitter, so we can't go to school, can't go to work, and we have to stay at home all day long.
So they live as strangers in their father's country, unable to communicate, to understand, to belong.
I felt like I was not Vietnamese in Vietnam. But right here in my father's country, I don't think I'm American at all. So I'm kind of in between.
Half a world away in Ho Chi Minh City, other Amerasian mothers are caught somewhere in between. This home video, taken in March by World Vision, an LA-based humanitarian relief organization, captured some of the Amerasians waiting to come to the United States. Some of these women have been waiting in this transit center for so long that their babies were born here. Helen Dow remembers one young Amerasian who was desperate.
This girl just broke out in tears. She's just saying, I'm truly an Amerasian. I have a very old foster mom that I need to take care of, but I have no chance here.
So they wait inside this Amerasian transit center with their children and dream of a better life in the United States. While inside this bedroom in Orange County, Beihai Tran dreams of her life in Vietnam.
My life in Vietnam was better than my life in this room. I'm thinking about Vietnam every day, every minute.
Their dreams span 2 continents, but they are seldom realized. They are the illegitimate children from a forgotten war, still searching for a place to belong.
So what went wrong? Well, some say it was too little, too late. The United States waited until 1987 to pass a law which allowed the Amerasians to come here. By then, they were young adults. Many arrived illiterate and unable to communicate, and now federal funds are no longer available to help them learn English and job skills. And the only nonprofit charity that's been helping them out, World Vision, is no longer providing resources. If you would like to help, here's the number to call, 714-537-0608. St. Anselm's Cross-Cultural Community Center is keeping its doors open to Amerasians even though there are no more funds available. They need jobs, they need mentors, and they need financial help. And if you want to help, the folks at St. Anselm's can help you, and they want to hear from you.
I'm sure they do. Randy, well, how do these families support themselves?
They work menial jobs. The moms are collecting AFDC money, trying to find some way to learn English and get out into the job market. And the young men, as we saw last night, are working menial jobs, many in the Vietnamese community in LA. And ironically, even though this is the largest pocket of Amerasians in the nation, a lot of people believe this is the most difficult place for them because there is such a large Vietnamese community here. They have more difficulty breaking through and getting into the English-speaking world that their fathers are a part of.
The competition.
Right.
Randy, thank you.